Hello everyone, this is M. Allen West of FlashCadaver.com, and today I'm going to make another DragonBones tutorial. This one is going to be over distorting the mesh and adding weights to the bones so that it'll help distort the mesh properly. The end result will be a similar animation to this, where the weight will be added to the bones and able to bend the mesh. So we'll go ahead and get started with a new project. So exit out of this, we'll go up to File, New Project, or you can hit this plus icon down here at the bottom. Create Animation. We're going to do an armature, and then click Finish. Up in Files, we're going to click Import Assets to Library, and then by holding down the Control key, we're going to select the different items that we want to import into our library. So I want to use the arm, the flames, and the open and closed hand. So click Open, and then over in our library over here, you'll notice that all the assets have been imported. So we'll drag out the hand 1 to the stage first. Then drag out the arm. And the reason I'm doing it in this order is because whatever one you pull out first is going to be on the bottom, and then the next one will be above it, and so on and so forth. So we've got the hand selected over here. So what I want to do is take hand 2 and drag it up to here. Now you'll notice that the hand is in the wrong position. So what I want to do is go back up to hand 1, right click, copy transform, go back to hand 2, right click, paste transform. Usually it'll put it in the correct position, but in this instance it didn't actually put it where it was needed to be. So you'll have to manually adjust that one. So now if we click through these different animations, we can actually have an open hand and a closed hand. So I'm going to start with a closed hand, or an open hand. Then we'll go back over to the arm. And on the arm layer, we need to add bones. So we'll select the bone tool, click, drag to the center of the arm. And this is left clicking. Left click, drag to the end of the arm. And you can tell if you're still on the actual image you're on by the blue line that's selected around the image. So next we'll go to the hand, and you can see it's outlined with a blue box. And now we've basically got the bones set up for this. So next what we need to do is we need to add an IK constraint to this 2 sets of bones that are on this mesh. So what we need to do is hold down Control key, select 1, and then select 2, and then click this IK constraint, and then you can see now the bones are highlighted in red. And then we'll go over to this little icon right here. You can zoom in, you can see it. And the length on this is set to 0. So we're going to go ahead and add another bone by setting this to 100, clicking enter. And now we'll go to the position tool, click, drag down. And if we go to the selection tool, now if we drag that bone in and out, basically we can see that it's bending the bones, but it's not bending the mesh. And all this is basically a control. So you use this to control the bones. It's not actually a bone itself. I mean, technically it is, but it's used more for animating these bones. You can change the the bend in it, if you uncheck this box, now it'll bend the other direction. So we're going to go ahead and check this box back again so that the bones are bending the correct direction. Now select the mesh. You need to click this mesh button over here, or right click on the mesh and click mesh, and it'll check this box. Now click edit mesh. Down here at the bottom, new edge, confirm. By left clicking, you need to click and drag, and basically all you're doing is outlining the mesh. And you just click and drag, left click and drag. You definitely want to make sure you have a point where it can bend in this area between the where the elbow should be. And we'll go around the whole entire mesh. Now you might need to readjust some of these points, and you'll see why here in a minute. So if I go up here and then I go down here, and then on the last one you click on the same one you started on. So you can see that it's actually, because I've positioned this wrong on purpose to show a point, I need to go down here to modify, click that, and drag it down. And now you can see all of the arm. You can reposition some of these if you need to. Now if you notice that you needed more bend points here, you can actually go down here to this plus icon and say I need another point right here. I can just click that and add another point. And I also need to reposition, go down here to modify, click this one, drag it up, drag it in a little bit, and maybe drag this one down, and drag this one down and out a bit. And now we basically got our mesh set up. So now what we need to do is we need to click on the selection tool up here, grab this bone. Now if we try to bend the mesh again, you'll notice that it's still not bending. So what we need to do is Control Z that, select the mesh, over here at the side, hit Add Bone, then select this bone and this bone by left clicking. Now if we go back up to the selection tool, select this bone. Now we'll notice that when we move the bone, the control bone in and outward, it's actually bending the mesh, but it's not bending it correctly. So next thing we need to do is select the mesh again, go up to weights. Now you can select each one of these individually if you need to. So I could go over here, select one of these individually, go over to this slider, slide it back and forth, or I can hold down Control, select multiple ones like this, then select the bone I want it to attach to, and then scroll by clicking on one of these little dots and then scrolling up and down. I can control it this way. Another way to do it is we'll go back over to the weight tool, and if I left click, drag out a box and drag it all the way, we're going to start on this side actually. So drag it all the way out to the center here, and then select the bone, and then select one of these. Oops, I didn't quite have it right. Okay, let's try that again. So select these, by left clicking and dragging. Now select the bone and click up and drag. So we want it to be attached to the orange bone, which is this one right here. And then we'll attach these in the back side. We'll attach these to the green bone. So we'll select all these, and then we'll select the green bone, select one of these points, and drag up. Now if we go back to the control over here, grab this little control bone, pull inward, pull outward. Now the mesh is less distorted than it was before, but we're having some issues in some of the mesh pulling incorrectly. So maybe what we might need to do is actually change this one. Let's give this one more green. Let's give it all green. Let's see what happens when we do that. Oops. Make sure I have the right thing selected. Oh yeah, that's way better. So now what we need to do is select the mesh. We're going to go ahead and edit these bones, because I don't want them to quite bend that much. So I'm going to select are these points, and then select the bone we want it to attach to. Well, looks like since that one's fully orange, we're going to have to go over here and manually do these individually. So change that to, it doesn't matter exactly, we'll just play around with it until we get it right. So then go over to the selection tool, select the bone, move inward, move outward. There we go, we've got some pretty good motion on that. That could definitely be animated. And it doesn't show too much distortion in the mesh. The other thing we can do is, now that we have the hand set up, we can go over here and close the hand or open the hand. But we need a fire animation to add to this hand. So we're going to select the first fire, bring it onto the screen. Now what we need to do, by left clicking and dragging down and then scrolling in with your middle mouse button to get your screen positioned here, we'll go to the scale and we'll grab these little arms and scale it inward. Try to get it to a decent size that we want. Alright, so we're going to use about that size, and then we'll go down here to move, click, drag down. Now we notice that this is actually behind the hand and we want it in front of the hand. So what we need to do is right click and then bring forward or bring to front. So we're going to bring it all the way to the front. And now it's in the front. Right click on here, copy transform. So that was a right click, copy transform right there. Then we'll go ahead and take all of these animations and we'll bring that up to the fire level, which is right there. Click, drag, release. And now we've dropped all these animations on here. So what we need to do is we need to go through each one of them. We've got this one on here, so we need to right click, paste transform. Do the same thing with this one, right click, paste transform. Next one, right click, paste transform. So now if we go through these, they should be pretty much in the right place. But we want the base of the fire to be at the exact same place. So scroll in with your middle mouse button. Up here at the top on this bar, click and drag down your line. And this is basically just to give you an idea where that fire is laying at. So now if I click to the next one, that one lands on the line. This one is too high. So I need to click, drag it down Now go to the next one. This one is also a little bit too high. Click, drag down. So now those are positioned correctly. Scroll out with your middle mouse button. Now this is all set up and ready to animate. So go over to your animation layer, and that's up here at the top. There's an armature animation. Once you're in the animation layer, what we need to do is we need to start the, well, we've got one more issue we've got to solve. Control Z to undo that, go back over to the armature. We need to attach the spire to this bone right here. So we'll select the spire, right click, and then we will set parent and then select this bone. So now if we go and select this bone and move it inward, now it's attached. So we'll go back over to the animation layer. We're going to start the animation with the arm in the upright position like this, maybe back just a bit more, and then in frame 20 we're going to click and drag out our control bone, straighten out the arm, and get it to this position. So now if we hit play, we can see that it's actually playing out the animation. It's a little fast. We could probably maybe go to 30. So if we click and drag this, drag it up to 30, now we play our animation. I actually like it better at 20. We'll give it at 22, see how that looks. That's good enough. So we can always adjust this later if we need to. In the upright position, we need to select the hand, and the hand needs to be closed. So we have the hand selected. We go over here, select closed, and then at frame 22, we're going to say before frame 22. So frame 21, we're going to open up the hand, and then we'll go all the way to frame 40, and we'll just close the hand and then open it back up. So basically we're just setting a keyframe here. Now what we need to do is select the fire, and the fire in frame 22, or we could do 21 or 22. We could have the hand open for a brief second before the flame appears, or we could have it immediately appear. So I'm going to go ahead and do it when it opens, I think. So we'll go over here and we'll select a flame. It doesn't matter which one, whichever one you want to start on. And then in frame 40, we'll go ahead and select another flame. So now we'll go back to frame 0 by left clicking and sliding your this little green line down here. And you can also go over here if you want, as long as you have the flame selected. So I could go null, which is basically none, and I can set the frame to none, or I can right click on it and go null over here by switching display, and it does exactly the same thing, and it sets a keyframe. So now we're going to go ahead and go through the different frames. So 22, we'll just click on each other frame, every other frame, and we'll change the different animation of the fire. And we'll just go through each one of these until we reach frame 40. Now if we click play, we've got our hand moving, we've got our animation of the flame, and everything's good. So another thing you can do is there is also onion skinning. So if you want to see where these flames are, where these the different arm travels through, and see the frame by frame, this actually shows all the frames that are behind that frame. So if I turn off onion skinning, you don't see it. It does create a little bit of lag in the program, I've noticed. It seems to eat up a lot of resources, so it's best to keep that turned off. But if you need to see the travel of the object and what direction it's going and all that stuff, you can turn on onion skinning. It's right down here at the bottom. There's also a curve editor, which curve editor is basically it's used to control like the speed and speed variation of how things are moving. And it's right down here at the bottom. When you click on it, it doesn't open up the box correctly, so you have to click and drag upward, and you'll see the curve editors right here. And if we can find a curve. But anyhow, you can go through there and change the different curves and stuff, or you can set curves. Another thing you can do is you can actually create, if you select this bone out here, you can actually create an IK by pick. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I know what it does. So if I put a point out here and I move this back and forth, this will actually follow this. So you select that bone first, and then you do this pick. So if I go back to the animation, and now if I play it, you'll see that it's only pointing towards this point. So if I move this, let me get this out of the way. So if I move this point up to the top here, sort of have it a little bit back, and then move it down here, and then maybe down there, click play. It gives it a little bit of a different motion to the object, makes it a little bit more believable. Now you can also go down here at the bottom and you can shut off the bones so you don't have to visually see them. So if I go stop this animation, I click down here at the bottom, I can turn on and off bones if I don't want to see them. You can turn on and off a lot of stuff actually if you don't want to see it. So I'll turn the bones off, and then if I click play, we can see the animation without the bones. Which, so far, the animation looks pretty good. Now you could do other things to this as well. So say if you wanted to, you could actually, if you added more points in here, you could actually distort the mesh and make it look like the character has a muscle coming up like this. Of course, you'd have to constrain this area right here. So, and you could actually animate each individual one of these. So if I wanted to push that up farther, drag that out, you can see you can actually animate those individually. So I don't want to actually do that, but you can do that if you need to physically distort the mesh like that as well. So that's the basic tutorial, and I hope you've learned a lot from this, and make sure to check out the other videos. Thanks again, and make sure to subscribe.